Wisconsin's big win over Washington has sparked recruiting.
You are Locked On College Crossover, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
To this crossover edition of Locked On Badgers and Locked On the Portal. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst. Thank you for making both Locked On Badgers and Locked On the Portal a part of your day right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports broadcasting network you can get anywhere in the country for NBA, for college football, for hockey, anything else you want right here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And today we're going to be talking about Carter Smith, the freshman quarterback. We're going to get to him later on the show. Is he the future for the Wisconsin Badgers and why? We'll get to that a little bit later. We're going to be talking about multiple commitments for the Badgers after their win against Washington. I did not see that coming, especially with where they're getting from some of these players and where they're getting guys to visit. This is a very good trend for the Wisconsin football program. And to start the on-field, I watched a lot of the Wisconsin versus Washington game. That was not expected. The effort, the determination, a good coaching plan, all of it helped. The fans were into it. Really good win for the Badgers. Let's start there. And to help me figure it out, Ryan Herrings, Locked On Badgers, who's actually in my state right now. I live in Alabama. He's not close to me, but he's also in the state of Alabama in some godforsaken hotel. But hopefully if he's telling me where he's at, I think he's in a very safe spot. So that's good news. But Ryan, thank you very much for doing the crossover. Question for you, sir. Right out of the gate, I'm sure you got 100 times more information than I do on what's going on with Wisconsin. Were you as surprised as I was? I for whatever reason, I decided to watch the game from the outset. They were dialed in as players, but they were physical, which, that's typical Wisconsin. But I think they kind of caught the Huskies off guard a little bit. They got more speed and overall talent. They punched them in the mouth. Didn't really flinch. This is what we're going to do. If we lose, we lose. And the players were just dialed into that. Were you surprised at all? Because it was a boring game plan, but it was obviously effective. What'd you think of it?
I got to be honest, Brian, and thanks for being flexible and helping with the crossover as well with me on the road. It's awesome always to talk ball with you. I wasn't shocked. We saw this same team play the same way against Oregon the week before. This defense really played the same way. I think there's a very real, and when this decision came out, and you and I talked about it, there was a lot of criticism about Luke Fickell and Chris McIntosh, another year of vote of confidence. But all this team has done is played better since that. And I think it speaks to the young players on the team that are still very much bought into Luke Fickell. And I think that vote of confidence, how there's a new coach bump? I actually think this vote of confidence gave the team a bit of a, we're staying the course bump.
I don't know what you call it, but I'll just roll with what you said because the effort is different to me. The defensive guys, especially that front, they've got some natural pride. I always forget his name. What's the big white guy, 68 or what?
He's good, right?
Oh, no, he's not good. He's a guy that I watch. I went on because he's got good hands, he's physical and all that. But when he makes a play, running at him is not the greatest idea. Teams still do it because he's in the middle of the line. He gets him going, and he had a pretty good play at first or second drive for a while. Plays like that kind of spark you. They knew they weren't going to score a ton of points. The defense isn't stupid. They knew Carter, they see him in practice. He's not ready, but, they used the limited package, and they rallied. And I think Carter, he got the crap beat out of himself. He needs to learn to get down, by the way. He needs to learn that very quickly, or he's going to be in sections. But at the same time, they respected him. I like the beard, by the way, for him. It makes him look 30 when he has his no beard. It looks like he's 12. So
it's part of the moxie. It's part of the moxie that he brings.
It is.
To your point too, Ben Barton came up massive moment, third quarter, blocked a field goal. He was the guy in the middle. And
was he that guy? I didn't know that. I didn't know it was him
too. And it's funny, they were interviewing post game, and he said, we saw it on film, and he said, I knew because the kick would come right down the middle towards me. If I pushed my guy back and I yanked him back far enough off the line of scrimmage, I'd stick my hand up and I'd get the block. And that's what he did. He just physically handled it. He's a baller. He's a straight baller. He came in as an offensive lineman, walk on, and has just continued to get better. flip positions. And I mean, he's really the type of player you're not going to see a lot of in college sports at this level anymore, which makes him easy to cheer for. Like, he's an easy guy to root for.
He's got a chance to make a training camp. I don't know if he'll make a roster because I don't know if he can pass rush at all, but he's a guy that can be your extra guy on the NFL roster or whatever. After being a walk-on, shoot, this guy like $500K a year or whatever it is, or he'll sign up for that right now. So good for him, bro. Good for him.
I think we also, you talked about this last time we talked after Oregon. You got to go back to those inside linebackers too. Mason was unbelievable again. And then the other freshman, Cooper Catalano, had 19 tackles. He had 12 solo tackles against Oregon, 2 true freshman linebackers. You go back to what has changed. Well, the 2 games they've started, those 2, it's Oregon and it's Washington. The defense is different with them on the field. And Post is a game wrecker.
2 things. Number one, they're obviously not over-challenged in terms of the mental aspect of playing linebacker, which is shocking. Because in today's world, there are literally plays where I've had defensive coaches tell me, if you're going against a team that runs RPO, which like Oregon does, you need to be in 2 places at once, literally. So that's not feasible. Obviously, that never changes in physics, but they're making plays and figuring it out on the fly while avoiding 320-pound men as 18-year-olds. That is impressive. Think about Posa. No offense, but there's a reason that I scout around the country. There's really good football everywhere. You know where I haven't scouted at, Ryan?
New Mexico? Yeah, haven't been there?
I'm going no. There's been a handful of guys from there that are really, really good. Posa's looks like he's the next one, but that state has like 1 or 2 kids a year that can play for anybody, and then it's just like fall off a cliff. Can you imagine that guy on Friday nights in New Mexico?
Dude, or on the wrestling mat, right? That guy won 4 straight high school wrestling championships, which you see him play. You see him play with his hands. You see him play with leverage. All those are wrestling things. I think wrestlers also have just an innate competitiveness. You got to be kind of a crazy person to wrestle. And
yeah, you're a little different. Yeah, a few of my buddies growing up were wrestlers, and they went into MMA. I'll let your mind wander. That's a crowd I no longer hang out with. I'll let your mind wander on that as to why too. But it's exactly what you think. They're crazy. So when we come back, I want to talk about the commitments. It was snowing. You had the Badger fans drinking a lot of beer, having fun. The recruits are obviously enjoying it. You had a couple of guys commit, one of which I've seen play that's really talented. Ryan, I got to give you guys some credit. Got a couple of players that are dudes. Haven't really talked super positive about Wisconsin recruiting in a while, but we're about to do that on this next segment. It's kind of fun. So that is next here on this crossover, Locked on Badgers and Locked on the Portal. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. The NBA is back, and there's no better place to get on the action than FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Even if you missed the start of the game or want to ride that hot hand, FanDuel has live bets on everything from who will score next to fourth quarter comebacks. Plus, you can even combine your live bets into a same-game parlay for a shot at a bigger payout. It keeps every game exciting, especially when your team's making a late fourth quarter push. Right now, FanDuel is also giving new customers $300 in bonus bets when your first $5 bet comes out a winner. Head to FanDuel.com, sign up, play your game with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Thank you once again for making Locked On Badgers and Locked On the Portal a part of your day, each and every day, right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, the number one place to get all your sports info on podcasts. I'm Brian Smith with Ryan Herrings. And Ryan, the AD's son committed. The AD's Mr. McIntosh, he was a dude at Wisconsin, played in the NFL. His kid committed, not shocking. But Wiggins, a Georgia kid going to a snow game in Wisconsin, and he had an offer from Florida State and all these other schools, and he committed to Wisconsin. This guy right here would have said crack cocaine is a terrible drug. Do not use it. If you predict that, you're insane. But it happened. Did you guys have any inkling? Because I read a message on one of the Wisconsin boards like, yeah, we got a shot, whatever. I don't think anybody saw that coming. What are your thoughts about Wiggins committing? We'll get to McIntosh too here in just a second.
Yeah, I'm actually really excited to talk to you about about Wiggins. We had a question in the Discord, knowing that you were and I were going to collaborate, asking specifically about him, given the type of area that you cover and the position he plays and where he's from. I didn't think it would happen, but this speaks to the power of certain locations if games are going well. Camp Randall in Madison is a really cool place when you're playing well. And
100%.
they rushed the field. It was snowing a little bit. You got to see even though the offense wasn't great, you got to see a really pretty strong rushing performance from Gideon Atuka, the redshirt freshman coming in and playing. And the crowd was really into it for a smaller, a subdued crowd just because of how the Badgers have played. Once they started playing well, the crowd got into it as a big win. And I think it was contagious. You saw a couple other recruits there, 2027 kids that are pretty highly rated, really into it. So I don't think we saw it coming, but once you played well, they locked it in. And I definitely want to get your take on Wiggins. Watching the film on him, the acceleration, the ability to run between the tackles, the vision, he doesn't feel like a consolation prize if you don't get Amari Latimer. He feels like a guy who could be the running back in a class.
Oh, he is. Here's the scary part. It's two parts to this. Number one, Wiggins, where he plays at Langston Hughes, it's arguably the most physically gifted program in Georgia over the last 5 to 7 years. That's saying something. Secondarily, where Latimer plays is literally right down the street. There's a little circle just south of the airport in Atlanta where these towns are. Every town has a team that can win the state championship in their division. It's insane. And this kid isn't even the best running back on his high school team. It's insane.
There's so much talent in that state, man. It's insane.
Carson Baker is the other running back. Maybe Wiggins, but it depends. Baker's committed to the Gators. He's a 10-4 kid at 205 pounds.
So that plays, right? 10-4, 205 plays, next level.
Yes, if you're bringing Wiggins off the bench, you're doing good.
That's insane. It reminds me a little bit of how was it? James White and I can't remember now. The back that went to Clemson. He played with James White when they were both in.
STA kid, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the same kind of deal. When you've got two FBS, like legit, not just like Toledo or Kent State, but like Power 4 running backs at your high school program, that's not normal.
So this is a really good question then, because I was watching the film, but obviously I don't know that part of the country nearly as well as you do. And I'm watching film, and he's very bursty, right? He gets north and south, 0 to 60 incredibly quickly. And then he's not always pulling away from people, but the people he's playing, we're talking pretty high-level high school defensive backs, linebackers, corners. That's a strong level competition he's playing.
Right, I'm telling you, right there, good as it gets in America, athletically. Like every school right there. There are some teams, this is no BS, that will not make the playoffs from that area, that have multiple guys just on one side of the ball or the other that'll play P4. They don't make the playoffs.
That's crazy.
So, yeah.
What does it tell you about Wisconsin in the year they're having to go into Georgia and potentially land not just Wiggins, but at this point, Latimer's still on the board for Wisconsin. Well, what would it mean to land those two guys from that part of the country given the year they've had?
That's as close to hitting the lottery as you could get for running back recruiting. Like those two kids could play at any of the schools that made the playoff last year. No question. So a team that's not going to a bowl, that doesn't recruit the South very well, and I'm being kind, name another year, like Wisconsin's an O-line school. They don't get O-linemen from the South like that.
Yeah, it's true.
So
you're firing me up, Brian. I'm getting excited about this.
Well, I'm a negative guy, but I'm also an honest guy. This is pretty awesome for Wisconsin. And we need the Badgers to be better because I want them to upset teams in the Big Ten. It's more fun when they're at least decent. You get kids like this, look, you give a crease to Wiggins, he gone. You give a crease to Latimer, he gone. So nothing wrong with the running backs they have now, but they don't have any burners. So, yeah, I'd be curious to see what would happen if they got both those kids on campus because they would have a pretty good running back room. I'm sure somebody will leave after that's kind of nature of the beast, but that'd be the best running back room in Madison in a minute. Just raw talent.
Would they play as freshmen, do you think? You think those are true freshman type guys? I think Latimer is, in my opinion.
Latimer is a screw you guys, I'm going to start guy. He's coming to take somebody. I'll put it to you like this. Latimer's a pretty quiet kid. I saw him play last year live, and I had no idea who he was when I showed up to this game, and it was another team. I went to go see the kid that was on the other team, tight end that signed with Auburn. I needed to do a report on him. After about 3-4 plays, I'm like, who the hell is that kid? And I asked somebody on the sideline. They said, well, this so-and-so, he's got 30 offers. I'm like, well, I can see why. And this was as a sophomore going into his junior year. Like that was the first or second game of his junior year. I'm just thinking he was kind of getting going. He'd already had a ton, like SEC offers and all that. And Badgers get him, which I'm still shocked by. But that team is loaded with guys. And he was the guy that stood out. This is a kid that, like Latimer is the kind of guy that goes to Tennessee and starts for 2 years. And they got one of the best running teams in the country. Like, he's going to come take somebody's job. Like, what's the kid's name that's starting for the Badgers right now? Atuka or whatever it is?
Yeah, Gideon Atuka.
Yeah.
He's a redshirt freshman.
Good luck.
He played well the last couple of weeks, too.
I'm not saying he didn't. It's not close.
Right.
If he learns how to pass block and he learns the playbook, and those are big questions, Latimer starts by game 7 or 8. He's just better.
Well, maybe that's part of the hook to keep him, right? It's that early potential playing time where he's weighing it against Tennessee and Ohio State.
He's a 3-and-out kid if you give him a chance. But at Ohio State and some of these other schools, like Ohio State's playing their 2 backs right now are playing a freshman. That's the only reason he ain't committed there, would be my guess. Like, that's just a log jam. That sucks. But if I'm him, I'm like, God, that sucks. All the schools that he was looking at probably don't have the same PT that Wisconsin does. And I don't know who the hell the running back coach is for the Badgers. He must be a good recruiter, and he's got to have Georgia ties because that area is pretty tight. Everybody recruits it. He needs some props and a shout-out. I don't know who it is, but that's a good job.
So it's younger running back coach Devin Spalding. And if you remember a couple of years ago, because you and I have been doing shows for a while, he landed Dylan Jones and Darion Dupree, who are both 4-star kids.
He's a good recruiter.
Yeah, he's a very good recruiter. And I would also give some credit. Pat Lambert, the guy kind of in charge of the recruiting department for Wisconsin, is pretty good at kind of connecting and keeping these people together. They have a pretty good recruiting staff when you consider the year they've had. And then you look at some of the guys they pulled in. Jaden Petite's still in the class. Obviously, we talked about Latimer, Ryan Hopkins out at Mater Dei. They've got some guys. So I think positional coach for sure, but also Pat Lambert and his staff, they've done pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, the top end talent, they got some NFL, like Latimer's an NFL player. So they're in a pretty good spot there. I'm pretty impressed. Speaking of impressed, I'm curious to get your take on Carter Smith, what it means to the program, what's next. Because until late last week, I mean, I don't follow the Badgers like you do. I didn't know he was going to be the starter. What should we expect next? And can the Badgers somehow beat Minnesota at the end of the year? That's something I want to get into. I know we're not quite to that point, but I know how much Ryan just loves Minnesota, and he just loves talking about the Gophers. Obviously, I'm being facetious, but we're going to talk about that next here on this crossover, Locked On Badgers and Locked On the Portal. Today's show is brought to you by SupplyHouse. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with SupplyHouse. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. The real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting on projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. So look, if you need something next day, SupplyHouse can do it. And if you're not sure exactly what you need, but it's still next day, you can combine things. They've got 3D schematics, so you can check it out, make sure it's exactly what you need. You can talk to their dedicated support line. And again, you can always call in. You can figure it out online and get it done next day with SupplyHouse. Join the Trade Master program today and get serious perks, priority shipping, better prices, dedicated support line. Just visit supplyhouse.com. Sign up for free, and you can even use code SHCollege5. Get 5% off your first order. Supplyhouse.com. Real people and real service. Speaking of real people, that's Ryan Herrings. He brings it, even though he's a Wisconsin fan. I know he just loves to talk about Minnesota. We're going to talk about that here in a second. Between now and the end of the season, I have a question at the very end for Ryan.
Love it.
So we'll get to that. But this weekend, Carter Smith will play again. And I'm just going to – this is just probably everybody's asked you this. Are we going to throw the ball? I'm sure that's the first question that every Badger, and it's a legitimate question because that is the most god-awful offense to watch, but the kid's not ready because he hasn't had enough number one reps. It's, chicken and the egg. So how do you prepare? And by the way, what's the weather up where you guys are when you're back home? Like, you can't – Julian saying CJ Carr or anybody else, that kind of weather, it's not real fun to throw the football anyway. What's the weather going to be and what's the outlook for the passing game moving forward?
Yeah, so the last couple of weeks, obviously, the weather has played a big part. Oregon and Washington, when it was both kind of rain, snow, wind. The weather's going to be pretty good this weekend. They're going to Bloomington. They're going to play Indiana. An Indiana team that is a little banged up coming off that Penn State game, but obviously that's tough. So you go back to last weekend, man, if this wasn't the most Badger thing ever, Daniel Neal starts, he comes out, and he looks pretty good. He breaks a couple runs, and then on a run down the left sideline, he just pulls up and essentially he's done for the year, right? It's just another non-contact injury for a Badgers quarterback. And you can just see, they pan to the coaching staff, and it's just like, how can this possibly continue to happen? So the Badgers turned to Carter Smith, the four-star true freshman, originally committed to Michigan. You and I have talked about him several times on your show, my show. And the plan for Carter Smith this entire bye week had been, we're going to get him ready for a package, but we're going to play Daniel Neal. So Carter Smith didn't get a ton of reps. They were going to have him come in and run some RPO, really just be a bit of a mix-up to get him into the fold. Instead, he has to play the whole game. And what you saw was the package that they had wanted him to run. It was RPO, roll out to the right, roll to the left, move the pocket, quarterback draw. He probably had 4 plays in his playbook, right? So, yes, they have to throw the ball. It was bad weather against a good defense, and he didn't have a lot of number one reps. And I think when you go back and you look at the fact that he still had a rushing touchdown, they won the game. His teammates obviously got excited by him being in there. He had no turnovers in bad weather, no delay of games, no bad quarterback exchanges. I think there's things you can build off of. Now, they have to throw the ball. You have to find ways to move the ball through the air. But I think this is a question I sent to you because someone asked Brian, can Carter Smith throw the ball? Can he spin the ball? And you came back and said, yeah, he can spin the ball. He just needs reps. So I don't think it's a talent thing. I just think he needs experience and he needs time and practice as the number one guy. From your experience covering him and seeing him and scouting him, what is the arm talent like for Carter Smith when he gets the experience?
The way he's built, I'm from Indiana originally. He reminds me of a kid that was a track athlete, a basketball player, a baseball player, that football was like his third sport, the way he's built, but he loves football. Like the way he's built, he plays like a linebacker, but he's built like a wide receiver. He needs to, again, get down. That's probably my biggest advice for Carter. He's a great kid, but he can really let it go from different angles. He's kind of like a slinky. A lot of younger people probably don't even know what that is, but he's a kid that's like a rubber band. Angles don't matter. He's got a natural over-the-top throwing motion that you would think of for an NFL quarterback, but he's just a skinny kid that's slow to fill out, that's a natural athlete. You would think, looking at his frame, is more likely to be the center fielder for the Badgers than the quarterback. Don't let that fool you. He can let it rip. And he was always a kid, even at Bishop Verrat, I think it's what it's called down in Fort Myers. It's a smaller program, like 2A or something like that. There were plays, and I'm sure you remember this, where he'd hand off or do something, and he'd go block.
Yeah.
He has a different mentality. Again, I'm like, what are you doing? It's not a good idea. You're the quarterback, but that's just who he is. He thinks he's 240 instead of 190. But I always liked his motion, and when I saw him at Elite 11, it was fluid. And that's when he was at the end of his sophomore year of high school. It was already natural. He already had offers. So I was surprised that Badger fans even asked you that because I assumed most of them had looked it up. Anybody can look up huddle film now. Easy motion, very comfortable. Some kids that I watch that are committed, like the Peyton Falzone kid that's committed to Auburn right now in the 26 class, incredible athlete. Motion's getting a little better, but he's got a ways to go. As a senior, he's not as far along as Carter was as a sophomore.
Mm-hmm.
So people was more.
I like him, by the way. Falzone. The Badgers were in on him for a little bit as well. I really like him. Not that this is an Auburn show, but yeah, I liked him.
He's a good athlete. But this is a kid that is a quarterback. Falzone could still end up an H-back. It's possible. Like, it's not perfectly natural. He's just a freaky athlete. So Carter, Once he has multiple weeks, just going to warn Badger fans now. I just know how coaches are. Who are the most stubborn people on earth, Ryan? Who are the most stubborn people on earth? Coaches. They don't like freshman quarterbacks. They hate them. This is their only option, though, if Danny is out. By the way, Danny's another kid I know, good kid. Indianapolis Cathedral guy. It's just terrible. But anyway, they're going to give him some throws, but they're not going to – like that Indiana secondary is not incredible, but the Pons kid, they're going to tell him something to the effect of, if you throw it that direction, we're going to throw you into the river. Like he's an NFL kid. So wherever he's at, they're going to throw the other direction, but everybody knows that. So they just don't make a lot of errors, and they got Aiden Fisher in the middle of the field. You're going to see tight end screens, slip screens, some fades. The middle of the field will be the Bermuda Triangle. That's my guess. And a lot of NFL teams don't even throw in the middle of the field. Peyton Manning didn't throw a ton of no field. That tells you anything. So they'll keep it simple, but maybe Vinny, somebody like that, he's got the arm to get the ball 45 yards down the field on a line. Maybe they can hit one big play, at least make it competitive. Now, do I think they're going to stop Fernando Mendoza all day? Probably not. But they played good enough defense the last couple of weeks to keep them in games. If it's 20-10 with 7 minutes to go in the game, would I be surprised? No. Indiana's really beat up. Their left guard was out against Penn State, and one or two other guys, like they've had some shuffling. It's not going the way they need it to in pass protection. Run blocking's okay, but like the communication's goofy. If I trust Fickle to do one thing, it's to play around with that. And if they can get fired up and get a few things, maybe he gives him a chance. Because later in the game, when you're down, you're not going to run 3 yards in a cloud of dust to make up a 10-point deficit. They stay in it in the third quarter. I'll be curious to see if Carter gets a few more chances, because they're probably going to get a few big plays against Mendoza. Mendoza is not a statue, but he's not Carter Smith running the ball either. Don't be surprised if they get a strip sack fumble or something. You have to have plays ready for sudden change where you go up top. Statue of Liberty, flea flicker, whatever it is. Carter is a part of that. He's going to have to make a throw if it's going to be close. You're not going to run for 270 and keep it close against it. It's not realistic. You're going to have to be able to throw the ball down the field and hit chunk yardage plays, or it's going to be 31-7.
This Badgers pass rush the last 2 weeks, actually for a lot of the year, the Badgers front seven has been pretty good. So they could create some issues there. You mentioned Ben Barton. We talked about him. Mason Riger has been really good. Then you got Polson, Milano. They got some pieces there that I think, Indiana's got some injury issues at receiver too. You can tell I'm kind of talking my way into this game. It's still a 29-point line, but I do think it's going to be closer than that. Indiana's going to win. They're really good. They have a better quarterback. They have the quarterback, but I think Wisconsin gums it up somewhat and they make it a little tougher. I want to ask you this with Carter Smith. Maybe this is my last Carter question, but I'm curious. So he's got 3 games left. This was his first game. There's some strategic thinking here. He's not going to burn his red shirt. He's going to play the last 4 games of the season, build some experience. Can he do enough where the Badgers don't look in the portal for a starter? Maybe they go to the portal for, we want a veteran arm for depth. Do you think – I think that's best case for the Badgers, but do you think he can do that?
It depends on who comes and who goes. You've got another freshman. You need 2 quarterbacks in this portal class, in my opinion, because what was Danny's other – did he tear – what's the injury for Danny, or what's the expectation? What is it? Do they know?
I think it's the Achilles. So I think that's
oh, Jesus. He's going to miss next season then.
I'm gutted for him really quick. So some players shut it down, right? The season's over. We're not playing well. I'm not going to play. Like Danny O'Neal, who I know is probably a little nicked up, goes into that game. I'm just gutted for that dude. Good kid.
Was playing pretty well. Yeah, he's a good dude.
So, he's not going to – I don't think he's going to be a factor next year. Billy's not going to be back. You have Ryan Hopkins coming in, the freshman. You definitely need at least 1 veteran arm at a minimum.
I don't think you can avoid it. I'm just going to say it. This is the scariest words for the Wisconsin Athletic Department. You better open that checkbook. There's only 1 portal window, brother.
Yeah.
And, they can't go into next season, especially, who they start with. That's not going to be friendly. I may be there with you. Watch my Irish beat the bejesus out of them, but you need backup quarterbacks. You need somebody to help Carter Smith along too. But you have to look at it from the other kid coming in, Hopkins or whatever. you have to count him as just a non-entity. Because you can't count on freshmen. You know that. And you'd like to create a year of separation and just redshirt him. That way he could start as a senior, fifth-year senior, get back to some normalcy. And if you want to win again, Wisconsin's got to win with juniors, seniors, fifth-year seniors. They're not going to out-recruit Georgia and Michigan and Notre Dame and USC. You know what I mean? So that's how you do it. Maybe a Princeton kind of guy, and then somebody else. I actually did a pod today on the Portal podcast. I know a lot of coaches at the smaller level are going to be really angry with me. I focused on a handful of G6 quarterbacks. I said, look, this is the reality. These coaches at these schools, even the linebacker coaches, making sure they get quarterbacks. If you don't have quarterbacks, everybody gets fired because you're not winning. These G6 kids, Wisconsin's got to get one of them. They're not as expensive, but a handful of them are good. Like the kid at North Texas, Ryan, he had a game he threw for 608. A game. I
don't know if we threw him for 608 this year.
I'm not going to comment on that, but like one of these kids like that, if Carter gets beat out, he gets beat out. But like he needs another year to learn. And if he's mad about it and he leaves. You guys are on the hot seat. They got to go get somebody.
Right.
That's going to be a really awkward conversation because Carter's not ready. You know, and especially the style that he plays where he runs around like that. Again, get down. You know, I don't know if he weighs 200 pounds yet. I guess he's right at it, but maybe with the beard. But that's just still funny. I didn't recognize him at first until they said, I was like, oh, that's Carter. So I'd never seen him with facial hair. It's funny. But they got to take at least one, and it needs to be a guy, and that's going to be really pricey. I'm curious to see what Wisconsin comes up with because otherwise they might have to ride with Carter. And if they just take the Princeton route or whatever, and Carter sprains his ankle against the Irish, are you going to bet your coaching career on that?
Well, and it's been 3 straight years of
I know.
Van Dyke gets hurt. You know, Billy Edwards gets hurt. Then Danny O'Neal gets hurt. And you know what? Last year they went and they got Billy, and then they got Danny. They did what you wanted. They brought in 2.
Yeah, they're snake bit. Don't get me wrong, but at this point, fans are not going to accept anything other than wins.
Yeah, no, nor should they. Like you're 4 years in at this point, and I mean you cover Florida State. Like I'm sure.
Oh, you don't even want to know what's going on there in year 6. That's a whole other level of expectation.
Can't be too happy.
The anger button has been pushed a few times on my show. I can assure you. If Badger fans think I'm negative on your show, come check out Locked On Seminoles. I got some news for you there. But Ryan, tell everybody where they can find your work, my friend.
Yeah, dude, appreciate it as always. Always like doing collaborations with you. Locked On Badgers, anywhere you find your podcast, audio, YouTube, it's all there. Really do appreciate anybody who jumps on for sure. And always, as I said, appreciate talking ball with Brian Smith.
Yeah, I like talking a little Badger football. And again, it's better for college football when the Badgers have some positivity. I did not think they were going to beat Washington. I thought they'd lose by 2 touchdowns. Good for them. Mm-hmm. They earned it. It was kind of a fun game, snow game. Since I live in the South, I don't see that stuff. I thought it was kind of fun. That was really cool. You can find the Portal Podcast the same places you can get Locked On Badgers, YouTube, Podbean, Spotify, Apple, and anywhere else you get your pods. This has been a crossover of Locked On Badgers and Locked On the Portal.